My name's Ross Metcalf. I'm superintendent of the Interlake School Division. I've been playing, restoring, and collecting old motorcycles for over 40 years.
You know, it's funny, what tweaks your interest in motorcycles? For me, I watched that movie, The Great Escape. I don't know why, but watching Steve McQueen jump the barbed wire fence and roar down the highway, I always thought about it'd be cool to have a motorcycle. So that's the early 60s, and everybody was going off to the movie theaters. And so that's why I got into motorcycles. There's that old saying about a dog that sticks his head out the window of a car, they know why a motorcyclist rides a motorcycle. I've had this old Indian that I bought off my one of my mentors, Bert Bentley. He was a colonel in World War II and decorated by the King of England, got the Order of the British Empire. He was quite a guy, and he was a swashbuckling motorcycle racer and dealer owner in the 30s. And I got this bike off of him when I was 19 years old, and I've had it ever since. So I've had it 40 years. I got a 15 Cleveland that was a first year. It's like a Gretzky rookie card. It's not an exceptionally fast or unique motorcycle, but it was a first year Cleveland made motorcycles. There's about 4 of them in the world left now. So there's 2 more 13 Indians we've got on the go. I've got an 11 Harley Twin in the restoration process, a 36 Indian Junior Scout that's in the restoration process.
You know what this is?
Not a clue.
Harley makes V-twins, and they make hundreds of thousands of them. But when they first started, by the time they produced a bike in 1905 for big sales, the company started in 03, but by 5 to 10, their bread and butter was the best single motorcycle in the world, and they ventured into a production model in 1911. This is the second oldest serial number Harley-Davidson V-twin engine on the planet. The oldest one is in Michigan. And hopefully this will be a restored 11 twin Harley in the next 3 to 5 years. Well, that's the Winnipeg police ordered 6 brand new 1911 Indians in 1912. For 1911, but in 1912, Indian thought that was so cool that they had sold Winnipeg, Manitoba, these cool motorcycles. They actually put it in their 1912 sales brochure that in Winnipeg, police department bought all these cool motorcycles. I think if I go through this, there's the 1912 catalog, and it's telling you all the new bikes to be sold in 12, and they're saying, look at Indian Motorcycle Squad to the Winnipeg Police. There's that same photo where that shows the 1911s.
It's a 1928 Scott Flying Squirrel, water-cooled, made in Shipley, England. Scott motorcycles from the turn of the century, 1900, right to the 1960s. This bike was brought to Manitoba just after 28 to race on the Manitoba circuit. This was a prolific winner. It was always in the money in the first, second, or third. Douglas, Manitoba, around 1939, the engine blew up in a race. and it wasted away in a blacksmith shop, stripped down. Didn't have any fenders, headlights, speedometers. Laid in that shop till the 60s, till my friend Bert Bentley found the bike, restored it to the best he could with the parts that were there in the 60s, and it stayed that way for 20 more years until he was at a garage sale. And he saw these tank badges, and the guy said, he said to the guy, he says, that looks like it belongs to a Scot. And he says, well, yeah, they do. How do you know that? He says, well, I picked one up from a blacksmith shop and I restored it. And he says, I used to own that bike. I raced it. So he went down the basement. All the original parts that were taken off in 28, 29, the headlights, speedometer, fenders, carrier, were all in a box 50 years later. Married back to the bike in the 80s, and by 1991 we were riding this bike, 100% restored, and Bert sold me the bike when he turned 90. It was the last bike he ever got rid of. It was his flagship, and this is sort of the other part of the hobby. Now I'm a custodian. You're custodians of things. You preserve them. You know, I'll keep them for my 30, 40 years, and somebody else will keep this famous Manitoba racing history bike. It's the last of two pre-World War II racing bikes left in Manitoba that hasn't been sold to some American for big dollars. So we hope to keep this as a Manitoba piece of history. And this particular chap is at the Kirkfield Racing Park. This is where the dirt tracks were. This is Joe Baribeau. He was one of the most famous Indian motorcycle riders in North America, and he just happened to be a Winnipegger. He was the first man on the planet to average 60 miles an hour for a full 60 miles. He tried it in the summer of 11. The bike seized because it got too hot, so he did it late October. He broke the record, and he was frozen to the handlebars. They had to lift him off the bike because it was so cold, and they gassed him up on the fly with a sidecar outfit. But at times he was doing 80 miles an hour on straightaways, but he averaged a little over 60 miles an hour for 60 straight miles, and he did that on a 1911 Indian motorcycle.
You know, when you're riding an old motorcycle down the road, that's the time I feel most alive. All the negative energy in the world just drains right out of your body, and you're just rolling down the road on a piece of machinery that's 70, 75 years old. And it makes me think, you know what? You don't see anybody with a vintage motorcycle parked out front of a psychologist's office. I mean, you just out in there with nowhere to go. And as my old mentor Bert Bentley used to say, I'm just out burning gas.